So welcome everyone to the class on risk analysis and on capital budgeting. And we are studying the subject called risk management and derivative. So in this session till now, we have discussed about the concept of coefficient of variation in the last class. I believe you have gone through all my previous sessions on this subject, and this subject is very difficult. It involves a lot of numerical questions. So guys, we prepare yourself for the numerical portion. Start reading books for corporate finance. You can refer Ashwath Damodran, or you can refer Prasanna Chandra or I. M. Pandey, M.Y. Khan. There are a lot of books are there. From that book, you can study this chapter called Risk Analysis on Capital Budgeting. You can study from that book. Okay, remaining chapters are related to derivatives. And derivatives, for derivatives, you can refer John C. Hull or you can refer S.L. Gupta. So there are different books are there. So actually, this subject is actually a mix of two subjects. You have to study capital budgeting from any books of financial management. Plus, you need to study derivatives, and for that, you need to refer altogether different books to study derivatives. So derivatives will start from the next chapter. Right now, we are focusing on this chapter called risk analysis on capital budgeting. It's again the part of risk management only. And in this risk analysis on capital budgeting, till now, what we have done so far, we have done so far till coefficient of variation. So these techniques, what when we talk about or which we can use for the risk analysis, we have discussed about standard deviation of variation, and now we are discussing about coefficient of variation. The coefficient of variation, whenever I say it is standard deviation by average into 100. So whenever we are confused which decision should we accept, we have two projects and both are mutually exclusive. Mutually exclusive means we cannot consider both of them at the same time. We have to consider one project at a time. So that time it would be really justifiable. 1 minute. So that So that time it would really justifiable if we follow coefficient of variation. Last class I told you that when we discuss, suppose we have two projects and we have to choose one project. So which project will you choose? So for that we use coefficient of variation. Whichever project have the lower coefficient of variation, that project should be accepted. So remember that part. So based on this question also came in Bangalore City. So you can see in 2019, you can see the question which came for 6 marks. You can see this question which came for 6 marks. So this question is like Shivam Limited is considering two mutually exclusive projects A and B. The project A costs 36,000 rupees and B costs 30,000 rupees. You have given below the net present value. Okay, probability distribution of each project. Okay, compute the expected net present value of project A and project B. So how will you calculate the net expected value? Okay, so how can you compute the expected net present value of project A and project B? And for that, we use the simple formula which we are already discussing. If you are going through all my sessions, you know that. So the formula for the expected NPV, the formula for that is sum of PI into XI. Suppose XI are the individual NPV values and PI is the individual probability values. So you can use that to find the expected NPV. So this is the problem. Okay, you can see. So you can find the expected NPV. So what is the expected NPV? Expected NPV of project A. If suppose if I'm asking you expected NPV of project A. So the NPV of project A. If I'm asking you expected NPV of project A. So the expected NPV of the project A, if you want, how will you find the expected NPV of project A? So how will I find this? So the expected NPV of project A. is nothing but you multiply the NPV estimate of the project A that you multiply with the probability of the project. So you can do that. So you can find this 20% or 15%. So like this, you can find individually all the projects. So individual 12,000 into 12,000 into zero point 0.3. So like this, you can find each project expected NPV. You can find for each project expected NPV. So you can do that work. So whatever is the NPV estimate, if you multiply with their probability, you will get the expected NPV of the project A. So the expected NPV of the project A, what is that value? If you want the value, so the value for that is nothing but it is the sum of individual values. The values what you get, it is a sum of that. So that is this is the expected NPV of the project A. Okay, so this is the expected NPV of the project A, sum total of this value. So 20% of 15,000 is 3,000, 30% of 12,000 is 3,600, 30% of 6,000 is 1,800, 20% of 3,000 is 600. I hope you understand. So with this, like, so whenever we say expected NPV project formula, the formula is sum of PI into XI. Suppose XI is their individual NPV value. So by using this formula, I can find the expected NPV. I don't think anybody will have any doubt with respect to this. So the first question, if you see here, the first question is that the two projects are there, project A and project B, both are mutually exclusive. You cannot consider both of them at the same time. You can consider only one project. So which project can you consider if the initial investment of project A is 3,000 is 36,000 while the initial investment of project B is 30,000. Okay, so you have to find the expected NPV value of each project. Okay, then you need to find the risk attached to each project. Means you have to find the standard deviation. So let's first find the expected NPV only. The way I found the expected NPV of project A, so like the same way I can find the expected NPV of project B. So like the same way I can find the expected NPV of the project B. Okay, so 1 minute. So I like the same way how I found for A, like the same way I can find for B. I simply have to multiply the NPV estimate with the probability. Once you do one calculation, you have to repeat the calculation. So you can do that. And with this, I find their expected NPV of project B. That is nothing but it is a sum of this. So you can use calculator to get this value. So the expected NPV, if I find for both the project, the expected NPV, I'm getting the same value only. Okay, anyone have any doubt? So these are the two expected NPV of both the project. So the expected NPV I found for both the project A and project B. Anyone, any doubt with this? So the initial investment you know about both of them. So I can find the expected NPV. So expected NPV is the sum value. The sum value, what you're getting, the sum of this, the sum of their probability, the individual NPV that you called as expected NPV. Same thing you study in portfolio management also. Now, when I talk about standard deviation, I believe everyone knows the standard deviation is a square of variance. Now, everyone knows that standard deviation is a square of variance. The formula of variance is sum of PI into RI minus ER whole square. Okay, so you can use this formula for the variance. So you already found the expected value. You already found the expected value. Suppose RI or XI, you can use any symbol. So please, these are all are variables in mathematics. So out of 26 alphabets, you can use any alphabet. Those things doesn't matter here. So you already found the value of expected NPV. So that what you'll do, you'll subtract from the individual NPV value. You'll do the square of that and multiply with probability. If you take the sum of that, what you get, that we call as a variance. So what I can do, once I got their expected NPV, once I got their expected NPV. So till now, anyone have any doubt, any question you want to ask from me? Anyone, any doubt, any question? So once you get the expected NPV, what you can do, once you get the expected NPV, once you get their expected NPV, what you can do, you can multiply, you can the value what you get, suppose this value what you are getting, okay, suppose I'm calling this value as xi, suppose I'm calling this value as xi, okay, and this value I'm calling suppose as yi. I hope you don't mind. So simply I'm telling for variable sense. Okay. So now for project A and project B. So here what I'll do, I write here this as xi minus their expected value, expected return, what you call expected NPV value. So what you will get, similarly the same thing I do for project Y, project B or Y, whatever you can use. Here I can say this yi minus expected y value. Any doubt, anyone? So what is this? What is this value? This value will be what is their individual value. So what is the individual value? So what you can do here. So what you can do here. So here, what I can do, the individual NPV value of project A minus the expected value of NPV of project A. I can subtract 15,000 minus 9,000, then 12,000 minus 9,000. I hope you are understanding. Then 6,000 minus 9,000. Individually, I can subtract. Then 3,000 minus 9,000. Okay. Any doubt, anyone? Don't do the sum of this. Sum of this will always be 0. Anyone, any doubt? So I represented, suppose I represented the project A with xi and project B with yi. So suppose I represent the project A with xi. Suppose I represent the project A with xi, project Y with project A with xi, project B as yi. So I can find these values. Anyone, any doubt? Can you understand this, right? Very simple. So now the way I did for project A, like the same way I'll do for project B. Now the way I did for project A, like the same way I'll do for project B. So project B also you can do the same thing. For project B, you can also do the same thing. For project B, I wrote this as YI, the NPV estimate, and this is your expected NPV value for project B. This is the expected NPV value of the project B. So you can subtract this 15,000 minus 9,000. Okay, then 12,000 minus 9,000. I hope everyone understanding. Similarly, I can do for all the other cells. Okay, then 6,000 minus 9,000 minus 3,000. Then 3,000 minus 9,000 minus 6,000. Anyone, any doubt? So individually, I can find their values. Okay, then what I'll do, once I found their values like xi minus exi, then what I'll do the square of this. Once I got this value, I'll do the square of this. So xi minus exi value, what you get, I'll do the square of this. I'll do the square of this. Similarly, the x yi minus ey value, what I got, I'll do the square of that. I'll do the square of that. So yi minus ey value, what I got, I'll do the square of this. These values, what you get, you simply do the square of this value. 6,000 square, then 3,000 square. Like this, you can simply, I hope everyone understand how to do the square and all. So you can do the square of these values. So once you can simply do the square of this, 6,000 square is 36 into 10 to the power 6. 3,000 square, 9 into 10 to the power 6 minus 3,000 square, 9 into 10 to the power 6. Like this, you can do 90 lakh. Okay. So I hope this all you people can easily understand. Once you're done with this, now you just multiply them. This value, what you get, multiply with their probability value. Multiply this value, what you get, multiply with the probability value xi minus ex value, what you get, multiply with their probability value. So probability value for project A, probability value, you can see the probability value of project A, you can see 0.2, 0.3, 0.3, 0.2. You can multiply with that, multiply this value, what you get, this value multiply with their probability value. Project A, the probability 0.2, then 0.3, like this. The value what you get of project A, multiply this with probability. Probability of project A. So you can do that part. Similarly, what you do, what you did for project A, the same thing you'll do for project B also. The same thing you'll do for project B also. So PI, you can multiply the probability, you can multiply the probability associated with project B with respect to the square of the difference, with respect to the square of the difference of project B. Multiply the this is y minus y bar whole square, multiply this with the probability of project B, probability of project B. Do this work. So what you did for project A, same way you can do for project B also. Anyone, any doubt? If you want, I'll send you this Excel sheet at the end of the class so that you should not have any confusion. So once you're done with this, what is the formula of variance? This is the formula of variance. So first we found the expected value. First we found the expected value. So how we found the expected value? By simply multiplying the probability with the individual NPV estimate. So with that, I found the expected value. Once I got the expected value, now what I'll do once I get the expected value, what I'll do, I'll multiply my expected value, what I got. So this expected value is very simple to get. So simply by multiplying the probability with the individual NPV estimate. So once I get the expected value, that I'll subtract from the individual NPV value, and then I'll do the square of that, and then I'll multiply with probability. So this is what I did till now. The sum of this is the variance of project A and project B. So variance, if you want the variance, of project A, so the variance of project A, if you want to know the variance of project A, so the variance, if you want to know the variance of project A, so the variance of project A is, is what value is the variance of project A. So if you want to know the variance of project A, that is equal to what? That is equal to the variance of project A is nothing but it is the sum of this value. So sum total of this value, you do the sum total of this value. So the sum total of this value is the variance of project A. This is the variance of project A. This is the variance of project A. Okay, similarly, I can find the variance of project B. Similarly, I can find the variance of project B. So the variance of project B, if I want to know the variance of project B, if I want to know the variance of project B, the variance of project B, if I know the variance of project B, you simply do the sum total of this, the sum total of this. So this is the variance of project A. This is the variance of project B. Once you get their variance, now I can find the standard deviation also. I hope you're understanding what is this. Like the way I found the variance, the square root of variance, if you do, you will get the standard deviation. So standard deviation, which we represent by the symbol called sigma. So standard deviation, which you can represent by the symbol called sigma. So that is nothing but it is a square root of summation of individual probability value into minus of the square of difference between the NPV value of minus the expected NPV value, the square root of this. So you can simply find once you get the individual standard deviation, you can find the risk risk of what is risk. Risk is the deviation between expected versus actual. So the standard deviation, the standard deviation of project A, standard deviation of project A. So ultimately I find the standard deviation of project B. So what are the values? So the standard deviation of project B. Standard deviation of project A, you simply do the square root of this value. This is the standard deviation of project A. Similarly, you can find the standard deviation of project B. So if I observe one, so this is the standard deviation of project B. Now, if you see the project A and project B, now if you see the project A and project B, if you compare the project A and project B, if I compare the project A with project B, if I compare the project A and project B, if I compare the project A and project B, okay, and if I see the expected return value, then standard deviation. So the expected return of project A, expected return of project A, this both are 9,000. Both are 9,000. The expected return for both the project is 9,000. Okay. Well, standard deviation of project A is this much, 4,499, and standard deviation of project B is 3,974. So automatically you can see both the project are giving same return, but the standard deviation of project A is more than the standard deviation of project B. So definitely you consider the project B only. Okay, because everyone we believe 1 minute. So this is called coefficient of variation. If I find coefficient of variation, if I find the coefficient of variation is nothing but standard deviation divided by the expected NPV. So this value, if you want in percentage, we can do that also. Finding in percentage is not a big thing. You can simply find in percentage. So you can see whichever project is having the lesser coefficient of variation, you will consider that project. So what this means? This means that the project B is considered over project A. They have given here the initial investment also, right? The expected, they have given here initial, but do they really require? Because these all are NPV value only. So why they have given as the initial investment and all? And this problem, because these are all NPV estimates. Okay, so you given these are not cash flow estimate. So and years also not varies. If it's given cash flow, then you would have subtracted with the initial investment. These are NPV estimates, so you don't need initial investment because already NPV is the adjustment after initial investment. I hope everyone understands this part, that whenever we talk about NPV, whenever I'm talking about NPV, it is sum total of the present value of the future expected cash flow, which we discount with WACC, okay, minus initial investment. initial investment does not matters a lot whenever we are talking about NPV, because it's already the adjustment after deducting the value of initial investment from the project. So consideration of initial investment does not make much sense. That consideration would have become more sense if cash flows would have been given. If the cash flow would have given, then we need discount rate also, and then by discounting with that rate, we can probably we can find the NPV of the project and would have considered that project, which is more what you say, is giving more NPV. But here that is not required only. So initial investment, I don't know the reason why initial investment is given here. So compute the expected NPV of project A and project B, compute the risk attached to the each project. So I found the standard deviation, okay, of each probability distribution. Then which project would you recommend? Why? So I'll go with project B because we believe that all the investors who are trading in the stock market, that is an assumption. So stock market everywhere in real day-to-day life, it's an assumption in theory of economics. So we say that individuals, anyone, investors, we say investors or or management of any company, whenever we talk about, are risk averse, are risk averse. So are risk averse. Risk averse means we all we risk averse means what? Risk averse means means objective is to means the objective is to maximize the return, is to maximize the return with the minimum possible risk, with the minimum possible risk. So everyone, so possible minimum possible risk. So understand this part, that whole portfolio management is based on this concept only. That normally the individuals who participate in any form of financial activities are either risk seeker investors, okay, who take more risk to get more return. The speculators, like you heard of many people betting in market and all. There are many people who put their money on horse. So those who are called as speculators, they want to take more risk to get more return. So such kind of individuals are there. Then you have such kind of individuals whom we called as a risk averse, who want to maximize their return with the minimum amount of risk. So the general individuals are considered to be risk averse individuals only. Okay, so they don't want to go with the policy of considering more risk and less return. Everyone want more return and less risk. That is how the our general theory of economics works. That we all do business to make profit. I don't think anyone do business to make loss. So that is the usual common assumptions, which is which on which every concept of market works. So I hope you understood what all I have done in this problem. Let me know if you have any doubt with respect to this problem. So I'm assuming that no one have any doubt. So till now, we have discussed in the techniques of risk management, we discussed about the concept of probability, the concept of variance, and the concept of coefficient of variance. Okay, coefficient of variance or variation. So if you want, you can solve this problem for your practice purpose. Okay, this is the problem where you have to calculate the coefficient of variation. So you can write this problem and send me the answer for this problem, where you need to the coefficient of variation and you need to suggest which project is better. So you can solve this problem. You can write down this problem and make sure you solve this problem and post your answers in the group. You can, whatever the answer you get for project A and project B, the coefficient of variation, you can put your answer and let me know what answer you got for the coefficient of variation of project A and project B. Okay, and then you need to tell me which project will you consider, project A or project B. So that this you can consider as a home assignment. You can do this problem. Now we have done so far these the concepts are related to the coefficient of variation. We have done the concepts related to coefficient of variation. Now we'll discuss the risk adjusted discount rate. What is risk adjusted discount rate? So you need to understand that when I talked about when I talked about the calculation of NPV. So while talking about the calculation of NPV, if you remember, so what we did, the future expected cash flow, what we get, we discounted those cash flows with the WACC. WACC means weightage average cost of capital. So this WACC, when I talk about this WACC in the consideration of WACC, I considered the risk in the form of cost of equity and cost of debt. So while considering the risk here, what I talked about when I talked about WACC, I considered the risk involved in raising money in the form of equity and the risk involved in raising money in the form of debt. Apart from that, I do not consider as such any other risk. So if you want to know about what all the risk you can have while raising money by equity or by raising money by debt, you can refer any textbook on corporate finance to understand that part. So in WACC, when we only considered the two important parameters. Those parameters can involve around the concept of raising money by equity or debt, which we called as cost of equity and cost of debt. But altogether, the risk parameters can be much more bigger than that. You can have a single factor risk model, or you can have multiple factor risk model. If you remember, okay, fine. So you are not much aware about. There's a model called CAPM model. You'll study about this model probably in future. So in CAPM model, we say the expected return, what you get on any asset is equal to a risk-free rate of return plus the amount of risk what you take, which we consider in the term of beta, into the return what you get in the market minus the risk-free rate of return. So what is RF? RF is called risk-free rate. This is called risk-free rate of return. This is called a risk-free rate of return. Where beta, what is beta? Beta is the factor which measures the risk. It's a systematic risk factor. I'm not going to detail of systematic risk factors and all. You will study in other chapter, or you have done this if you have done a corporate finance appropriately. So risk-free rate of return is the minimum risk you get on a market without considering any amount of risk. So the minimum return what you can expect, okay, that we called as risk-free rate of return. So this that we called as risk-free rate of return. Then probably if you take more risk in the market, then probably if you take more risk in the market, so you'll get more risk. If you take more risk, you can get more return. So this graph is something like this. So here you need to understand that what we do in risk adjusted discount rate. In risk adjusted discount rate, we try to bring what all risk parameters can involve undergoing this project. Those risk parameters can include compensation for delaying the consumption. It can be compensation for the inflation. Okay, the considering the inflation parameter, it can be any other form of risk which can involve in the project. We discussed a lot of parameters of risk which can involve in the project. Either it can be project specific risk, or it is company specific risk, or either it's because of competitor risk, either it's because of the market risk. We know altogether there are lot of risk parameters qualitatively or quantitatively which can impact our project. So you know about, already we discussed about these risk parameters. So can I put all these parameter, means all this risk into some form of consideration where I can compute all the risk altogether in the term of percentage, which would be definitely more than the risk-free rate of return. And that we call the risk-adjusted discount rate. In the risk-adjusted discount rate, we bring other factors also which can impact the project return. Those factors can either because of inflation, adjustment of inflation, those factors can either because of whatever the delay in the project, what can happen. So while working on the project, if you can have a possibility of delay in the project, that can also we can put into consideration. So altogether, we try to bring more and more risk parameters into consideration. Okay, here you can study something about real options to delay. Better if you want to understand this option, you can study about option to delay while working on the NPV of the project. So you already I have made lot of videos on real option to delay while working on the risk analysis on capital budgeting. That is not the part of Bangalore University curriculum. So Bangalore University curriculum don't ask questions on options to delay real options. But already I have made videos on real option. You can go to the playlist of finance and you can see the options, the problems on real options, and that way you can understand more about this concept. If you how delaying the project can impact overall the NPV of the project. So there are a lot of parameters are there. So in risk adjusted discount rate, we try to bring all the parameters of risk which you can have, maybe parameter 1, parameter 2 plus parameter 3 plus parameter 4, like this all together, all the parameters of risk which can impact your project. So that I called as this I called as a risk adjusted discount rate. This I called as risk adjusted discount rate. This I called as a risk adjusted discount rate. Then the expected NPV of the project or the expected cash flow, what you're expecting to generate from the project, you discount with this risk adjusted discount rate, and that we believe that will give much more better approximation of the NPV, where you're considering all form of risk what you can have on a project. You can see this example. Suppose there's an enterprise which is investing 100 lakh rupees in a project where the risk-free rate of return 7% and the risk premium expected by the management is 7%. The life of the project is 5 years. Following are the cash flows. You can see these cash flows. And these cash flows you're expecting to generate from the different years from the project, where you consider the life of the project as 5 years. So what you do first of all, while working for the NPV, you discount this future cash flows of 25 lakh, 60 lakh, 75 lakh, 80 lakh, 65 lakh every year. So here in the first the example, I'm discounting these cash flows, this future cash flows, what I'm expecting from the project. I'm discounting at 7%. Simply, I'm just showing you with an example. So discounting at 7%, 7% was the risk-free rate of return. I discounted with the 7%, and then I found the NPV where the initial investment was 100 lakh. So I got the NPV of the project in lakh rupees. So similarly, this I don't think this would be the better parameter. So better than that, I should discount with 14%. Why 14%? Because 14% is sum total of 7% of a risk-free rate of return plus 7% is the additional percentage of risk which management is expecting to generate for the project, because management is considering a lot of risk while undergoing this project. So these cash flows, what you are getting, instead of discounting with 7%, it would be ideal if you can discount by 14%. Then you do the sum total of that. So you get the sum total of present value of cash flow that you subtract with the initial investment, which was 100 lakh, and then you get the NPV. So this is the another parameter to work on the risk analysis on capital budgeting. So this is called risk adjusted discount rate. So advantages, disadvantages visible in front of you. You can read that. These all are self-explanatory. So I hope you understood this. So risk adjusted discount rate. It's again another parameter where through which we can we can discuss the techniques of risk management whenever we work on projects. So while working on the techniques, while which a project can involve, through which we can organize the sum total of all the risks the project can have. So those risk parameters can be measured by either standard deviation or variance or coefficient of variation, which we already discussed. And plus we have discussed this another parameter of conventional technique, which we called as a risk adjusted discount rate. Okay, so this much we'll do in today class. Tomorrow we'll do certainty equivalent. So Velocity asked problem on certainty equivalent. So that we'll discuss tomorrow class. Anyone, any doubt, any question you want to ask from me? So if everyone understood everything what all I have done so far, then it's time to wind up the class. Thank you everyone. See you all tomorrow.